everybody, welcome back to my channel. I'm your host, Dylan Fix. Today's video is going to be about LARPing. I know, it's crazy. It's almost like you guys have been asking me to do a video about this for a while. But today's topic is going to be a serious one, and I feel it is probably the most important topic for not just any new LARPer, but for anyone who calls themselves a LARPer. I feel needs to hear this, and my hope is that we can build more awareness and hopefully try to find solutions for this problem. And today's topic is, of course, by the title of this video, toxic players. This idea was actually brought to me by one of you guys in the comments like months ago, but I didn't have any idea on what I would talk about for the longest time until literally just last night. I'm driving home and I'm thinking, what isn't there to talk about? And originally the idea was, well, maybe I should do some investigation into other people's reports of people's problems that they've been having with LARPs. And I didn't want to give you guys just hearsay accounts. I wanted to give you my own personal experiences that I've either seen for myself or experienced in one way, shape, or form. And I'm going to give you my ideas of what I think are reasonable solutions on how we can combat this problem. So with all that being said, let's get started. Okay, so the first instance of a toxic player that I ever ran into was sort of indirectly because I never actually saw the player. I only saw the consequences of this player's actions. What happened was I showed up at Dystopia Rising, and I think it was like my fourth game. I went to the logistics cabin to sign up. I was the only one sitting outside at the time. They were dealing with one of the players inside, so I was next in line. And another player showed up and sat in front of me, and they were visibly pissed off. And I asked, hey, are you okay? Like, you seem pissed off. What's wrong? And he told me that he was there to basically get his money back because he was going to go home because the friend that he had come with to this game basically acted like such a prick that it just ruined his whole experience, and he just didn't want to deal with Dystopia Rising anymore or this game or his friend anymore, and he just wanted to leave, but he wanted to see if he could get his money back before he left. That right there is probably the purest form of why toxic players and toxic behavior is such a problem with the LARPing community. Because of the actions of one player, it cost the LARPing community as a whole from gaining a potential player. You know, it's the case of one bad apple ruining the bunch. I can go to a LARP event and meet 100 awesome, really nice, cool people, but I run into one person that's lost their grip on reality. All that good experience just turns to dust, and then I'm pissed off. That's just how human beings are programmed. And again, this is a problem that needs to be addressed because right now it's just the one player that this one toxic player cost you, but if this player goes unchecked and you keep getting in new players that run into this player that acts toxic, acts like a dick, and ruins their time at the event, then they leave and then they don't come back. And I don't know what became of this situation because I just went in, got my paperwork signed up, and then I just kind of gave the guy the salute of good luck and left. But what I like to think would happen in this situation is that the heads of this game would talk to this kid, hear his side of the story, send someone out, go out themselves and get this kid, bring him in, sat down with him, heard his side of the story, then determined who was in the right and who was in the wrong. If the player in question is in the clear wrong here, they need to sit down with them and go, the fuck, dude? You need to calm down and get a grip. It is just a game. Because of you, we just lost a new player. Your behavior needs to change or you need to leave. Those are the terms. For a LARP like Dystopia Rising, it's a business. People go there and pay to play. If new players aren't coming in because they keep running into a toxic player and then they leave and they don't come back, that's all the more money that's not coming in because of this one player. That's a problem. But how do we solve it? Well, there's definitely options. First and foremost, it's up to the player to voice their concerns and voice their complaints about another player being toxic. But what I feel like is going on is that there are people that fear coming forward and saying something because it makes them feel like they're a tattletale. That's kindergarten stuff. You're an adult now. It's okay to single people out if they're being a dick. Otherwise, don't scratch your head in bewilderment as to how this player could have gone on to become more and more toxic and ruining everyone else's fun when you didn't say anything. You need to be willing to say something. You have to tell somebody. You need to tell your friends at the game. You need to tell the heads of the game. You need to tell anyone who will listen to you. Even if it's just this one random guy that's like, yeah, you know, I've seen how this player reacts and, you know, I've been just kind of avoiding him. I just don't really deal with him, but, you know, he hasn't been really a problem with me, but I see he's kind of a dick. Get that guy. Recruit that guy. Bring all those people to the heads and explain your situation and explain what the problem is, and they'll have one of two choices. They'll either listen to you and deal with the problem accordingly, or they won't, at which point maybe consider not attending the next few games and get your friends not to attend the next few games. And then when the heads come online and complain about the lack of attendance, feel free to lean in and chime in. Yeah, that's what happens when you don't listen to the complaints of your customers. Mind-blowing, I know. And second, like I said before, the heads have to be willing to listen to the complaints of their players. If there's 20 people bitching about one person, it's pretty unlikely that it's the 20 people that are at fault and the one person that's just this innocent scapegoat that's being victimized. You need to be willing to sit down with this person and discuss how you can come to a solution for this problem. If you're a LARP group like Dystopia Rising, you're a business, and if big chunks of your players end up leaving all because of the actions of one person, that business is going to go under. That's just a fact. And then there's no LARP group for anyone, all because you were unwilling to handle one toxic player. And if you're not willing to do that, you shouldn't be head of the LARP group to begin with. You need to step down and get someone who can make those hard decisions. They either need to change their behavior or leave. It's just that simple. The second thing that happened, again, it was sort of indirectly because it wasn't happening to me, but it happened in front of me between these two other players. And what happened was we were walking by and I saw these two players, they were interacting with each other. And a part of Dystopia Rising is that when players interact with each other, if one trains another in a certain ability, they have to write it down on their player sheet. So that way when they turn it in, the heads can add that to your character and change your character sheet so it's there the next time you play. What I saw happening was they're writing down the stuff on their sheets, and one kid just gave a half glance at the other, like a half, like he did a little half peek over at the other guy's sheet as he's writing, and the other dude lost his mind. He got up in the guy's face like, "Are you trying to steal my player number? You know, I could have you kicked out of here in a heartbeat." And all this happened so quickly. The first guy, he was practically bent over backwards like, "I have no idea what's going on. What is happening?" And the other guy suddenly realized what was going on and went, "Oh shit, I'm the asshole. Oh no, sorry. I'm sorry. I went a little too far. I freaked out." And yeah, he was apologizing, but at that time, I felt like I should have said something. I didn't, but I should have. I felt like I should have leaned in and said, yeah, dude, it's almost like it's just a game. Calm down. Because even though he was apologizing, it was like a half glance and then fireball explosion. It wasn't reasonable behavior. And there's following the rules and enforcing the rules, and that's perfectly acceptable. I'm not gonna fault the guy for that. But then there's having a complete breakdown over just the suspicion that the rules might be getting broken. Like if I was in the exact same situation and I thought someone might be trying to read off of my player sheet, my first reaction would be to adjust my sheet away from them and politely ask, "Please do not read my player sheet." And upon further attempts to try to read my player sheet, then that would warrant a more serious response. But can we agree that my first initial reaction is probably more reasonable than the one that we got? So I'm not really sure why this kid thought the reaction he gave was the most reasonable response to give. It seems like a bit of a jump, that's all I'm saying. And the third time happened directly to me because what happened was me and my friend Joseph were out on a patrol. We were just walking around exploring, and we saw a few other players fighting these spider monsters, and we ran over and we helped them kill the monsters. I saw this one player take damage, and we beat all the monsters, and we all ended up basically heading in the same direction together. And the guy that I saw take damage was directly next to me, and I look over at him and I say, "Hey, you good?" And he goes, "What?" And I say, "You're at 100%? You okay? You good?" And he goes, "Fuck you," and bolts.
Boy, that escalated quickly. That really got out of hand fast.
And because of this reaction I got, I feel like what might be going on here is that there are players that have these certain disabilities. They either have anger issues or mental disabilities that are otherwise going unchecked when they would normally have medication or special supervision of some kind. And they've sort of just lost their grip on what is acceptable behavior. And this reminded me of a kid I knew from high school who had problems. You had to watch out when you had a conversation with him, because at a certain point in the conversation, whenever he was just done talking to you, he'd start thudding you upside the head going, "You should have had a V8, you should have had a V8. And this would piss off a lot of people, but you couldn't be mad at him. It's just because his brain doesn't work the same way as other people. And it's not like he was doing it to be malicious intentionally. It's just he didn't want to keep going with the conversation, and he didn't know an appropriate way to end it. It was just one of his tics you had to watch out for. I'm not saying that if a player has a disability, that's automatically going to make them a toxic player. What I'm getting at is if a player requires medication or special supervision to get them to behave in an appropriate manner, they should have that. That's all. So how do we solve this problem? Well, I think every LARP group, not just Dystopia Rising, but just any LARP group in general, needs to start having paperwork for people to sign if they have certain disabilities or needs that need to be met. You know, if a person is bipolar, needs medication, special supervision, keep it on file. And then if players do their job and complain when another player is acting up, and it just so happens to be one of these players with one of these special needs, the heads call this player in, they sit down with them and they say like, hey, have you taken your medication? Do you need supervision? You need to get this under control. Otherwise you need to leave. And I know that might seem like a extreme step to take, but I think it's a necessary one for the enjoyment and safety of all the other players. But what I really want to know is your opinion on this topic. Maybe you think I'm wrong, but I would love to hear you in the comments below. I'd like us to start a conversation about how we can combat this problem with toxic players of any kind, and maybe we can find even better solutions than the ones I've thought of. Who knows? So with all that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed today's video. If you feel like I've earned it, please give me a like. Feeling extra generous, give me a subscribe. If you'd really like to help my channel out, and if you agree with what this video had to say, I'd appreciate it if you just shared it around, or any of my other videos that you've enjoyed, share it around so it can get out to more people. With all that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your day. Bye.